Hey folks, I have read your discussion board posts and given feedback in the rubric that's associated with the assignment. Discussion boards are normally very straightforward. They are intended to get you to think about a specific topic and explore it with your classmates. I'm going to encourage you to avoid treating discussion boards like formal papers. It is great to use some headings to help organize your writing, but you don't want to go too far overboard. Sometimes you can overwrite on a topic and you can lose the focus of the intent of the discussion board. This discussion board was really asking you to consider an ethical dilemma and to work through the process of resolving it or at least addressing it. Several of you said, when you first read this scenario, that it was pretty straightforward. But the longer you thought about it, the more complex it appeared. And that means you thought about it long enough. There were dynamics between the nurse in question and and her peers, and then the nurse in question and the physician that she kept referencing, and then the nurse and the nurse leader, and how the staff nurse's performance hadn't been addressed. Lots of really good ideas with this. And I'm going to encourage you that when you're thinking about ethical dilemmas, it's great to think about the ethical principles. It's great to look at the ANA scope and standards. It's important before you do all those things that you really take time to understand the issue, that you talk to all the stakeholders, that you get as much information as possible so that when you sit down with the person who you're having issues with and you talk with them directly, you'll have enough information to know how to appropriately manage the situation. Sometimes we go off on a tangent and we don't have enough information and we wind up making situations worse. And this is especially common in ethical dilemmas that really are compromising the team and the work environment. So we want to proceed cautiously and make sure we gather enough information before we get started. I think the other challenge that I think we have when we look at the fact that we are Christian nurse leaders, not just nurse leaders, but that we do have a calling of faith that requires us to be that much better at encouraging, mentoring, role modeling, and holding accountable the people that we share the work environment with. One of your classmates did a really nice job of kind of wrapping this up in a little bundle. Your classmate Justin wrote, the ANA specifies that nurses are accountable for their actions and also possesses a mission of promoting integrity within the profession. By allowing the errant behavior of the nurse in question to escalate to a problem point, the nurses on the team bear some degree of responsibility for not honoring the code of ethics. The Word of God states that it is the responsibility of Christians to address the one who wanders from the truth, and you'll find that in James chapter 5, verse 19. For any Christian nurse working on this unit, or even the manager, seeing that one erring and not addressing the behavior as it arises foregoes that responsibility and rather slips into the worldly attitude of letting sleeping dogs lie. So much about those sentences that Justin wrote that I really, really enjoy. I love it when people use great vocabulary words and they use them correctly. I love the word errant. I have to tell you that I was reading reading Justin's words and saw the let the sleeping dogs lie, and then realized that the dog behind me over my left shoulder was snoring. So lots of good things in there. So the general gist of what Justin is saying is when there's a problem, we need to deal with it. And we need to deal with it directly, and we need to deal with it in love. So I appreciate the thoughtfulness that he put into that. The other thing Justin does a really good job with is biblical integration. And that's an APA point I want to talk to you for just a moment about. When you are integrating a Bible verse or a scholarly concept into the body of a paper, I'm going to encourage you to avoid using direct quotes. You want to synthesize what you know to be presented by the author and apply it with what you're writing about. Give it context. If you are using a quotation, it should be so exceptional that there's no better way to put it. That is a rare thing. It is not something that you will find common, and you really want to avoid doing direct quotes as much as possible. When we're dealing with the Word of God and we deal with Bible verses, it is important for us to understand that, first and foremost, God expects us to understand His Word. He wants us to be able to read verses in the Bible and think, okay, what does this mean? What is God telling me in this? And for us to be able to take that understanding and apply it to what we're writing with, and then at the end of the sentence, use an in-text citation with the book, the chapter, and the verse from the Bible, and put it in quotes there. So work towards that. Sometimes people struggle with this, and it's an important concept to get. Think about the last scholarly article you read. Very rarely in those articles are you going to see direct quotes. When you see them, it's because it's vital to state it the way it was written. That's not often the case. So work towards biblical integration, work towards synthesizing what you're reading from other authors into the body of your work, and try to decrease the number of direct quotes you're using in your papers. All of that being said, next week your literature review on strategic planning is due. This paper is pretty lengthy, so I want you to plan ahead, take the time to really think about gathering scholarly sources. The requirement is 3 to 5. Normally the 4 to 5 does a little bit better because you have enough information to compare and contrast. The idea is for you to have a really good understanding about how organizational planning influences the clinical environment. So you need more than a couple of sources. Remember that part of this assignment is not just for you to say, these are the articles and this is what I found, but to do so in a way of saying, these are the articles and these are how they're similar. So if you find 4 articles and 3 of them say one thing, then that would be a similarity. You also need to deal with a contrasting component of writing this paper. So you'll group things together and these articles are similar in this way. And in another section of the paper, you'll write, and these articles are different in this way. That's the contrasting piece of it. Very often we're good about comparing because it lends ourselves to kind of thinking positive. When we struggle is when we try to think of how are these difficult? How does this 1 or 2 articles, how are they thinking differently about this concept than the other 1 or 2 articles? Are there 4 articles and one of them is really an outlier? It completely does something different. So the first step in this is finding good scholarly articles. Do that early in the week. Spend time reading them, highlighting them, thinking about how they are approaching strategic planning so that you can have a clear understanding of the concept before you try to write about a concept. Once you find your articles, it is expected that you are using level headings in graduate level writing. This paper lends itself to level 2 and level 3 at a minimum. Sometimes level 3, if you break down your details a little bit more granularly, but at least level 1 and level 2. Organize your paper because this will get unwieldy quickly if you do not have a plan in place to make sure that you're covering all the key concepts and that your writing is organized for clarity's purpose. So make sure that you're doing that. Okay, I think I have covered everything I need to tell you. Know that I'm here. If you have general questions, the who, what, when, where, how, please put those in the Ask the Professor link. Anything specific to you, to your experience, to your grade, something that you and I just need to talk about, know that you can always email me. I'm here, at least virtually, to support you. So use your resources and know that I'm one of them. I hope you guys have a great rest of the week. Take care.